If you're like me, you might be a new user of Monarch Money. I'm coming over to Monarch after years of using a homegrown Excel tracker for my budget. In this video, you'll see how I set up my budget and ported over balances from my already existing sinking funds using Monarch Money, but bypassing Monarch Money's clunky goals feature. So the way I'm using Monarch Money for budgeting and achieving financial goals isn't exactly the way Monarch wants you to use their product, but I'm giving it a try to see if this will be useful for you in your finance tracking needs. This budget method in Monarch depends heavily on rollovers, so be sure to stay until the end of this video because you'll see how the rollovers can cause confusion or fear about where your money may have disappeared to. Let me know in the comments if you think this budget method might work for you. Let's hop right in. I am going to show you that at the top of the screen, we are at the end of November. So it's November 29th today. I've been using Monarch for 2 days, trying to get it all set up. And I just want to mention that Monarch Money does have a goals section in the sidebar. I feel like this is better for people who are in a little bit more of a simple situation. My sinking funds are spread out across various bank accounts, but Monarch Money requires spending against a specific goal or sinking fund to occur from the bank that the goal is linked to, which in a month-to-month real world budget scenario for me is just not going to happen. For me, that's just too restrictive, but I really want to use Monarch Money and to have a successful experience with it. So basically, I'm going to show you what I have done personally to configure my Monarch Money account to support my own unique financial situation. I connected my accounts, my checkings, my savings, my 401k, investments, mortgages, and credit cards to get things started. It was easy enough for me to plug everything in until I got to my sinking funds. You see, I started contributing to my sinking funds years ago, and I have a decent amount of money actually already saved up for things like travel, gifts, donations, down payments, emergency funds, various landlord expenses, and so on and so forth. So again, I'm doing this as a way to avoid having to use the goals function, which I find unhelpful because of its restriction to spend from affiliated bank accounts. So instead, I'm treating my startup one-time allocations as budgeted spending until I zero out the totality of the money in my accounts as of this moment in time, which you can see that I have done. If this was over or under, it would turn green or red accordingly and tell you how much was either left to budget or how much has been over budgeted. But with a gray dash in the middle, that means that you're perfectly zero-based. So that's exactly where I want to be. Monarch Money allows users to roll over every budget category from month to month, which will give me flexibility to spend from any account and still track it back to my sinking funds, unlike what happens over here in the goals. In order to make this work, I needed to make some certain categories as able to roll over, which you can do directly from within the budget menu, and I'll show you how to do that. So for example, groceries. All you have to do is click on this little gear icon, and you'll see that this pop-up allows you to make this category a monthly rollover. Every month, the remaining balance will roll over to the next month. If you activate this, you have the ability to select which month you want to start the rollover from. However, it doesn't allow you to go forward. It only allows you to go for the current month and previous. So because I'm not wanting to do this for my groceries category for November, I'm just going to uncheck it and leave it there. But I want to show you what it looks like when you do have one that's scheduled to roll over. So we're talking about sinking funds, and that's where I'm going to go. I have a separate grouping where all of my categories under sinking funds are positioned. So you'll see that I've gone ahead and populated this, and all of the ones that you see with a green rolling arrow means that it has been configured as a rollover category, which means that anything left under the remaining column during that month will actually go forward and populate on your next month. So since I'm starting towards the end of the month, and again, the assumption is that most of my spending that's happened up until this moment in time is already reflected in my bank accounts, I'm not marking my normal expenses as rollovers yet because everything's just a little bit wonky, and I don't want December to be affected by unbudgeted November spending or show a negative when it's not actually negative. But to explain further, I did not hide all of my November spending. So let's go back up and see my core expenses where my day-to-day spending occurs. You'll see that my car payment happened, my groceries were $300, and all of these are reflecting negatives, but they're not really negatives. They're just that they're accounted for under the total amount of $107,000. So it's already reflected. I do not want Monarch Money to think that I'm going into December in the negative in these categories. So that's why I'm not rolling them over. But I am marking my sinking funds as rollovers. As you can see, all of those are green and they have the little rolling arrow there because I do in fact want those to appear in future budgets. So I'm going to show you what my December budget in Monarch Money looks like right now since we're still in November. Again, what we're going to be looking at is what's it going to look like in December. So to get to your next month, just click on this little arrow at the top right of your screen and it'll take you, again, you'll see we're in December now. We're no longer in November, we're in December. But I want to show you something important because if you're going to try this method like I am, it's not actually going to show you your rolled over dollars. So let's look at our sinking funds here. You can see that I have some budget allocations made, but I don't have anything rolled over. This is because the rollovers don't actually occur until the new month actually happens. So what we're going to do is come back together in about 2 days here in early December and we'll talk about what it looks like in the December budget once that rollover actually does occur. We'll also come back together and do a budget with me for the month of December using Monarch Money as I conduct my first ever complete budget using this new platform. I'm gonna be kind of leveraging a YNAB, or you might know it as you need a budget principle here, and assuming that whatever I'm coming over with as a total cash amount at this point can simply be allocated to my sinking funds. So I'm not going to use this goals section because I don't like it. At this point in the month, I only have a few little payments being made out of my different credit cards and checking and savings accounts. However, the total amount of cash I'm starting with is basically every dollar that's left in my accounts after all of my monthly bills for the most part, minus those expected things that are coming out between now and the 30th. So I'm gonna go to my accounts tab and you'll be able to see all of the different accounts that I have available. And you'll notice that this is all of the money that I'm gonna be starting with. As a total, it's 107,000 and change. So I'm taking this total amount from each account and adding it as a credit under the transactions. So what I have done, as you can see, is each of those bank accounts mirrors one of these transactions, which I've classified under my other income category. I'll show you a little bit later. This allows me to allocate these dollars in the month of November. Basically, what I've also done is hide any of my actual paycheck transactions. So you can see that I was paid back here on November 24th and it was for this amount, and I have hidden this. So it will not show up in my spending or budget calculations. Again, I'm doing that because the money is already accounted for under the method that I'm trying out. From there, I'm assigning this total amount, this $107,000, in my budget for the month of November. So I've basically told my budget that my total income for the month of November is $107,000. Again, that amount exactly totals up to how much I have in my different checking and savings accounts that are scattered here and there. Most of this amount will be filtered into my sinking funds because that mirrors my real world situation right now. Hi everybody, so I'm fast forwarding to the next day because a thought occurred to me last night as I was laying in bed about my credit card balances coming over into my very first setup month of using Monarch Money. And so what I found is that I actually forgot to include the fact that those credit cards are not reflected on the inflow that I brought in yesterday. So what I've gone ahead and done is deduct those current credit card amount balances from my initial cash inflow amount. So in Monarch Money, you cannot edit an existing transaction. I'll show you. So I simply deleted the manual income that was shown in yesterday's presentation. What you do is you can actually go in and delete one. I'm not going to actually delete this one, but you would click on it, scroll down to the very bottom, and then click delete the transaction if that's what you wanted to do. And then I basically added them back in, but less the amount that the credit cards were showing as active balances. I did this because although I brought over the total amount from each account, but those balances didn't reflect the earmarked money that was intended to pay those credit card balances. So this did slightly reduce my budget. We'll go back into the budget area and you'll see that actually what those new transactions reflect is a decrease over the amount that I had originally budgeted. So I'm going to go ahead and change this to match the actual that came in. And when that happens, you're going to see that the left to budget tile up in the right-hand corner shows a deficit now of $1,930. As you could see, that was easily adjustable from within the budget category right here inside Monarch Money. Again, you cannot touch or edit or modify what shows up in the actual because that's all driven by the transactions. But you can modify what your budget projections are, so I've just reduced that to match what the actual was. And also what I'm going to do now is reflect this deficit within my budget. And I'm going going to do that by editing my sinking funds by altering the data that shows up in the budget column below. So we're gonna go through, and you can budget with me for the rest of the one day that we have left of November, and we're just gonna go ahead and take out some money from my various sinking funds until we reach a balanced budget. We're almost there, and I'll go ahead and I will remove, we'll remove $30 from the beauty category, leaving us at $220 left. And as you can see, this brings us to Monarch Money's zero-based budget. There is nothing left to budget. I have not over budgeted or under budgeted as of these changes. Okay, so it is now the 1st of December, and as promised, we're coming back into Monarch Money to check on those rollovers from my sinking funds. And we're getting started right here on the dashboard, which again is just where you come in when you very first get logged in. And I'm gonna actually go ahead and move from the dashboard down to the budget. And you'll see that it defaults to the December 2023 budget. And we'll scroll on through and we'll go look down at our expenses. And we're gonna take a look at the section for the sinking funds, which, as you recall, is where I placed money last month in November, and you'll see that it has in fact rolled over to December. And it has also gone ahead and updated with the amounts that I will be contributing to my sinking funds on a monthly ongoing basis from this point forward. So I'm very happy with the way that this is working out so far, and I want to actually go through and do the income sections now so that we can go ahead and budget out our month of December. So to do that, I'm going to start in my income sections, and you'll see that I have 4 income sections. I have 2 rental properties. I am a mom and pop landlord, and I also have a W-2 day job, and then any other income sources, which would be any kind of freelance work I might take on or interest payments throughout the course of the month and things like that. So I'm going to go ahead and get started by looking at my rental income. This is correct. I should be receiving $1,200 for this apartment. This property has 4 apartments in it, and these are the correct amounts. So we're just waiting for the payments to actually come in. You'll see that one of them, actually this one for apartment number 3, has come in, and that deposited earlier this morning, which is great. Here where I live, tenants have a 10-day grace period for paying their rent. So that has arrived, which is great. I'll look at my day job, and we'll see that I'm anticipating total income of about $6,400 for my paychecks, and then I usually roll that into a month ahead fund because I try to use last month's money to pay for this month's expenses. Not so sure how I feel that that's going to work out using Monarch Money, but we'll circle back and let everybody know. I also am leaving the bonus at $0 and reimbursements also at, actually I'm going to change my reimbursements to $23 because I actually am anticipating a $23 reimbursement this month. However, I'm going to not apply that to future months because this is a one-off. It was for printer ink. So we're going to leave that, and again, $0 for bonus. We'll look at my other income, and we'll see, I'm going to expand it to show the unbudgeted categories. I anticipate receiving about $275 combined in interest from my high yield savings accounts, and I anticipate receiving $0 for any freelance or other types of income. So this for other income is actually quite a big difference from what it was last month in November because of that huge influx of starting cash. I also point out in the top right that the tile here changed from gray to green, and it's now telling me that I have $23 left to budget. So with that said, I will take a quick look at the $23 and think about where to sprinkle it and where to place that for payment. So this month I'm giving myself $256 for groceries. I spent a little bit more than this last month in November because we had Thanksgiving and I hosted about a dozen people. But I think $256 for me for December is completely adequate. I might even have some money left in this category at the end of the month. My car payment is always $519. My transportation and gas, I'll nudge this up to $110 this month because I do plan on taking a little road trip up to Boston and I might need that extra gas money. My gas and electricity bill, I'm leaving at $250, which is a bit on the high side, but that's because we're entering cold weather here in the Northeast and I do anticipate spending that much. possibly even more. Give myself $125 for entertainment. I'll give myself a little bit extra this month, $225 for any kind of restaurants or bars that we might go to. Honestly, we don't go to bars, but we do go to restaurants every now and then. The standard amount that I give myself for miscellaneous spending is $300. That would be for anything like household supplies, cleaning products, whatever I might need throughout the course of the month. My internet is always $71. I anticipate spending all of that. My phone bill, I use Mint Mobile, and I think it works out to like I should sock away $45 a month. So this is kind of actually a rollover amount. And the reason I didn't do it as a rollover amount in November is because my Mint Mobile bill came out in November. So actually what I'm gonna do is set this one as a rollover. So to do that, we're gonna click on the gear icon and mark this category a monthly rollover starting in December 2023. Once again, it defaults to whatever the current month is, and it doesn't let you go to future months. So December 2023 it is, and save. You'll notice now that in just a minute here, this is going to show a rolling green arrow, which means that anything left in there at the end of this month that was not spent will roll forward. So by the time my 3 months is up, I'll have all my money in the stockpile for being able to pay Mint Mobile. My gym is $27 a month, and I do anticipate spending $250 on my Betterment investments this month. Moving along down to my landlord expenses, I'm going to expand this to show the unbudgeted category. So I have $35 for my landlord platform, and I also have $0 contributed to professional and legal services. But I'm noticing that this is a problem because I think I had several $1,000s from November that were supposed to roll over. So I guess I forgot to do that. Let's actually go ahead and do that now by clicking on the month that we want to go to. And we're gonna just use the back arrow to go to November, and we're gonna go to the expenses area for landlord expenses, and you can see, yeah, it's not rolled over. So this needs to be marked for a rollover. Starting with November, actually, save, and we'll go back to December, move forward to December. We should see that $5,000 carried forward, and there it is. So that's all set up, that's fixed. Thank you for bearing with me. We'll also take a quick look at the expenses for each of my 2 properties. So my mortgage for one of my properties is $1,944. That's not going to change. I am going to be starting to sock away $75 a month for maintenance on this property, $120 for the master meter, which would be the main house water, sewer, and electricity. Insurance, I do need to squirrel away $140 a month for that so that when my bill comes due next year, probably around June, I'll be able to pay that all in one lump sum. And I'm not going to add anything additional to the emergency fund on this property. I do have $20,000 that rolled over from before, and this is to use for anything that goes wrong with this house because it is an older home and things can happen. Moving along to the second rental property, the mortgage for that one, this is my 4 unit, is really expensive right now because I'm in an escrow deficit for the time being, $5,640. I anticipate to spend all of that. The internet for that property is $55 a month, and that's because I run the doorbell camera and things like that off the Wi-Fi there, and I don't make my tenants pay for that. The master meter is for the whole house, water, sewer, and electric, $250. I will also be paying the utilities for apartment number 1 in that building because it's currently rented by the room, so I will sock away $250 for that. I actually don't have Airbnb expenses because I'm not running an Airbnb, but I'm still putting $25 in that category in case I want to grab anything from my tenants who are renting by the room. For maintenance on that property, because it is an older home, I always put $600 aside every month to be able to deal with whatever comes up. That could be a plumber, an electrician, you name it. I always have money set aside for that property. The roof on that property, I'm setting aside $100 a month because I've got about 13 or 14 more years on the roof to be able to save up for a new roof. So I'm starting now and starting small to try to just start building a little nest egg for that. And then I'm also saving to be able to paint that house because I don't like the color of it. I think it just needs to be refreshed. People deserve to live in a nice looking home. I'm saving up for that for them, even though everybody tells me it's a waste of money. Honestly, I don't care. I think my tenants deserve the best. Moving along to my own personal sinking funds, my month ahead fund, again, I'm just trying this out for now. I don't know if I'm gonna stick with it, is $6,458. I expect that's what I'll earn in paychecks this month. Unfortunately, from what I understand, Monarch Money isn't set up to do month ahead budgeting the way YNAB is. However, I'm gonna give it a try just in case. My personal emergency fund, I keep $10,000 on myself in case of job loss or a car situation or just some need for emergency funds. So I try to keep that at $10,000, but last month I spent a little bit, so I'm adding a bit more to kind of replenish that. In fact, maybe this will be where I put that extra $23 that I have left to budget. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. And I'm going to first uncheck apply to all future months, and I'm going to change this to $173 to increase it by 23 bucks, and this will zero out. There we go. I'm putting $1,300 towards my next down payment because I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet, but I would like to expand into an additional rental property or just buy my forever home. I'm not sure which yet. Nevertheless, I'm socking money aside anyway. I'm putting $100 into my cat's veterinarian bills or anything that he might need, $125 towards my health insurance deductible for next year, $600 towards travel, $125 towards gifts, income taxes. I always owe in at the end of the year, so I'm putting $500 aside for that. Always, of course, hopeful that I won't be spending all of this, but at least some of it I anticipate will be gone once tax season rolls around. I'll put $250 towards my wardrobe, $250 towards medium-term sinking. So medium-term sinking for me is anything that is outside of my normal spending, like say I need to buy a new piece of furniture or something like that. It usually comes from here. Charitable giving, I'm going to do $50. Car maintenance, I'm stocking aside $100. Beauty, $150. I'm also going down to my other expenses here, and you'll see that I am putting aside $10 for any sort of eventual finance fees, and then anything that I forgot to budget throughout the course of the year. And then that actually brings us to the end of my budget, which is considered zero based at this point. And then I will check back in with everybody later as the paychecks start rolling in. And so then you'll see that all of these remaining items that are in green will actually zero out to show that they have been received. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you want to see more Monarch Money setup and budget with me videos.